Hello and welcome to In the Art Scene podcast, a show that unites creatives from all over the world in sharing inspiration, life stories, business knowledge, and love for art. This show is a part of the San Diego Art Directory, a nonprofit organization serving as an informational hub for all things arts and culture in San Diego County, founded by yours truly. I'm Galina Marquez, and I invite you to explore a new angle of the multifaceted world of arts and creativity. As always, the show notes will be on our website, intheartscene.com. And now let's get to the episode. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to In the Art Scene podcast. I do have an unusual guest today because she is technically not a visual artist or a filmmaker or, she is a professional musician, but that's, from what I understand, she's not doing very much anymore, unfortunately, because she's got a very beautiful voice and her face is just created to be in the music video. So, Jenny Dempsey, we actually have a very interesting background. We met at a totally different world that has nothing to do with creativity, but nonetheless, we connected on the creativity side. And Jenny is also a podcaster. She is doing an interesting exploration of people switching careers 180 degrees, and that's fascinating to listen to. But I will stop rambling. I'll just let her introduce herself. Hi, Jenny. Welcome to In the Art Scene.
Galina, hello. Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome to be here and talking about all of this. I think because I don't know if I consider myself an artist. And after chatting with you, it's like, wait, I need to reframe my view. So this is great to talk about this today. I love your show. You're amazing. We do go way back to a different time in our lives. And I'm just glad to be here.
Yeah, and it's interesting how we met. So it was a totally corporate setting. It was my last corporate job. I was marketing manager at the tech company that was working with the technology for the contact centers. And Jenny is on the other side of the aisle, was working as the manager, trainer, consultant for
the contact center.
In the contact center world, which I understand because you have such a warm personality. You just exude compassion.
Thank you.
And that's probably the thing that drawn me to you. And also, so I think this is how we met. I was following, you were a content creator for that industry, and I followed your blog, and then we were doing a series of webinars. Like, I gotta have that girl on the webinar, and she happens to live in San Diego, so we got to connect. So we did connect. We did a webinar together, and since then we're chatting, the bye-bye contact center world, hello creativity. So Can you tell us, our listeners, a little bit about yourself, how you ended up in the contact center world and how you ended up dropping it and do what you do, and then we probably will drill down deep into your creative history.
Yeah, I could definitely share that. So I was in college at San Diego State. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was majoring in English. I loved creative writing. So I just picked a major that I was like, I like this. And I went to the job board. This was an actual bulletin board at that time that shows, how old I might be at San Diego State, and applied for a frontline customer service tech support role at a company here in San Diego. And it was part-time, and I got it. I went to my interview in jeans, and I got the role the same day. And I ended up working at that company for 10 years, moving from frontline agent to full-time supervisor, manager, managing special teams, and all kinds of things like that. And I just loved it. And I think, your kind words that touched on the compassion, as I consider myself a semi-retired people pleaser, and I think
I love that.
really lends into how and why I was so good at customer service. And I did co-found the blog with my former boss, Jeremy Watkin, customerservicelife.com. And we would write about all the customer service stuff that we learned, events that we spoke at, webinars, all kinds of things. And that really was the foundation for my career. And I didn't see it coming. And I just ended up really enjoying it. However, you get to the point where you burn out because I thought I had to do all the things and say yes to all the projects and, work 12 hours a day and work on the weekends. And, I ended up burning out several times and moved to different companies throughout the industry, really sticking with the startup tech world. And staying in that industry, speaking at events. I have 2 Udemy customer service beginner courses. Really, that was my life. That's all I thought I was good at. And I really emphasize that because all the creative endeavors, music, even just like the little crafts, art, anything went on the back burner because work came first. And so, and I'll talk about the music thing. I will say I'm definitely not a professional, but I loved music and I'll share a little bit more about that in a bit. But it really went on the back burner because of work. And it was in 2022, I was working for a wonderful ag tech company and got laid off. They laid off 70% of the company. And this is when all of the really big tech companies and smaller tech companies were going crazy with layoffs. And so I was, for the first time in my career, when it was always so easy to find a job, was without one and then couldn't find one. I applied for almost 400 jobs and got rejection after rejection. And I'm like, I've been working in this industry 18 years. I have all of these wonderful accolades under my belt. What is going on? But then there's things that I started to learn, like ageism and the fact that for one job, 1,000 people are applying because so many people are getting laid off. And so the competition is high, but also companies are not willing to, like, they may not have the bandwidth. They may be willing to pay, but they don't have the bandwidth or the budget to pay higher amounts. So they see someone like me who, may expect higher salary. And they're like, yeah, no, we can't afford you. Heard that a lot, heard overqualified a lot. And I didn't want a VP or director role. So I really kind of was struggling to figure something out. And then there was a moment when, I was job searching and my mind was going bonkers. Like I was just stressed out, sobbing a lot at the end of the day of all these rejections. And this creative side of myself that had been really pushed aside started to emerge. And there was this moment where one of my really good friends, Jordan, she had this junky old table in her basement. I mean, this was a solid wood table, but it was covered in paint and gunk. And it was gnarly. But I saw that table and for whatever reason, I saw potential. And she's like, you can have it. I don't care. Like, it's just sitting here. And I was like, okay, yeah. And I have done very, very minimal furniture refinishing, a basic staining of something that was free or, painting, but very minimal throughout my life. And I saw this table and I took it back and I binged a bunch of YouTube and Instagram and TikTok videos of like, how do you fix something this up? And after a while, I just went to Home Depot, bought a paintbrush and some sandpaper and some stain and paint. And I transformed this table and I started to put it on Instagram. And while I didn't necessarily consider it art, I started to understand that there is an art to it. There is a level of patience that I think with any art that you have to have in order to create. And it's patience with yourself. It's patience with the process. And I started to learn that. And then once I did one table, the rest is history. I have done, almost 100 projects at this point over the last year and a half. And each one has its own individual personality, pieces of myself that are showing through it. And the creative side is not going to be silenced anymore. I'm in this point now where I'm like, I didn't listen to it for so long, or when it would come up, I would push it down. And now that it's here, because I essentially got slapped in the face by the universe and was like, yo, you need to pay attention to this side.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just going to say that.
Right. It really, I never would have taken the step. I never would have believed that I was anything more than my job, which is heartbreaking because I think back to who I was 5 years ago when, Music, for example, was something that I started when I was an early teen. I took guitar lessons at the Fender Guitar Museum in Corona, California, learned how to play acoustic guitar while listening to Jewel on my CD player and singing and writing songs in my journal. Went to college at San Diego State, and in my dorm room was, learned how to edit music and record it through a tiny little crappy mic, played open mics, recorded CDs, gave them out to people. And flash forward a few years later, when I got that wonderful job, I ended up saying, well, I'm just not good enough at music. Work comes first. I'm just going to put that on the back burner. But like any artist may understand, that feeling will creep up again. And it wasn't until probably about, I don't know, I would say maybe like 2011, 2012. So about maybe, 8 to 10 years later, it started to come back up. And I was living briefly on the East Coast in Philadelphia. And I played one open mic night after not playing for a very long time. And it just reignited my soul. And through that, I started to the host of the open mic night at the World Cafe Live down in Center City, Philadelphia, was like, we got to get you on this circuit. And so I started to play gigs around town and all kinds of gigs. And then I had a gig at a winery in New Jersey. And so I started to just pick it up again and just loving every second. My friends would come out. It was a freaking blast to play to music that I created. I recorded an album of songs that I wrote using a Groupon at a recording studio in Pennsylvania. And, I just like found opportunities and I made it happen. But like anything, then that, work gets busy. And I again told myself, you're just, you got to focus on what's real. Because when I was on the verge of going to college, there was a moment where I was like, I'm going to major in music. And, in my family, it was like, you're a pharmacist, you are, a teacher, you do certain things, you don't do music. And it was presented to me like, if you do music, you're going to struggle. Do you want to struggle? Yeah, you don't. This is not what you do. That's what you do for fun. That's not what you do for work. Get a real job. And it was just like, oh, okay. But then when I majored in English, they're like, well, what are you going to do with that? And I didn't know. So I think they kind of just lost hope anyways. But but yeah, the music thing, I just kept going back to what I thought society or my family or, whatever it was really important, I thought, and then pushing the creative to the side. So the music part, there's music on SoundCloud that's really old, but I have all my albums up there just for fun. And it's interesting to see the creative process evolving, where I have realized at this point with furniture flipping, I'm San Diego furniture flipper. I actually started a business with this now where I do custom projects for clients, but I also rescue furniture from the trash that will prevent it from going to a landfill, give it a makeover, and then sell it. And it becomes an art piece, a statement piece, something that you cannot get at IKEA. Not that anything's wrong with IKEA. I freaking love IKEA. There's moments where it's so fun to walk around that big, big warehouse. But, there comes a time when there's a piece of furniture that is like solid wood and such great character left in it. And it has another life and it shouldn't sit in a landfill. And so I fix that up and sell it. And each of these pieces, these things that I create, whether it's a song, whether it is a piece of furniture, I find that I love this creative side to bring it into the world. And I just don't have the ability to push that aside ever again. So I've made this promise with myself that I accept that I'm a creative person. I accept that I am more than my work. Work does not define who I am. Work is wonderful and necessary. And I'm going to choose to do it in a way that brings in my creative talents. And I will say throughout, which you may remember as well, our tech customer experience contact center time, I would go to business conferences, and every once in a while I'd write a song for my session about, I don't know, customer service. And I'd play it at a business conference. I'd be traveling across the country with my guitar to sing at a business conference. And it became something that was very minimal and few and far between, but I treasure those moments. And I remember thinking, man, I'm the weird one here. But it became such a part of this creative soul within myself that I had been pushing down that I was able to incorporate every once in a while, but just continue to like, okay, that's good. I'm going to put it on the back burner because I need to get to, whatever it is to help the team,
Yeah.
help the customers. And this is all I can do. And it's been an interesting journey of self worth, understanding my creative side and really owning that.
Yeah, yeah. And I was just going to reiterate that uh, even though, well, furniture flipping is not considered a fine art.
No.
But I like to think that my show is not necessarily about like the world of fine art. It's all about the stories of people who get reconnected with their creativity and how the journey unravels. And this is like I've never perceived you as a contact center person. I remember the music videos that you were posting on LinkedIn with
That's
your
right. Yeah.
guitar. Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Sitting in your
Mhm.
bedroom. It was
Yeah.
so awesome. I always thought that you were putting yourself so much into creative writing, the content, and all of that, because I always sense that you enjoy this, that the contact center and customer service is about connecting with people through some emotional channels. And that really, really stood out to me. And I saw where that like that came from your creative side, your compassionate, your beautiful creative side. So it doesn't really matter. I mean, we creative people do find quote unquote real jobs that makes money and serves a big boss or whatever, right? But
Mm.
you can never silence it. But
Yeah.
just like you said, at some point when you try to shove your creativity down, it starts to hurt. It
Yeah.
really starts to hurt. And it's just, it's sipping through anyway, like whatever you do in your life, right? It's
Yeah.
sipping through. Um, and then when it hurts too much, then we burn out. And then for the lucky ones of us, just like yourself, the universe gets you a kick in the pants
Yeah.
and makes you reconsider and make do with what you have using your creativity. So you kind of you were left to make it work.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's no way for you to go back to the corporate world. The universe
Yeah.
put you in a butt and said, okay,
Mhm.
well, this is what you have here. You're not
Yeah.
gonna get that same job anymore.
Yeah.
All you
Mhm.
have is your creativity. Put it to work,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
So this
Right.
is yeah, this is the amazing part of the story for me. It's always so inspiring.
I love that. I love that you remember those posts because there was, like you said, you can't silence it. And there were definitely so many times where I would post this and I would post and be like, this is so silly, but I have to do it. And I think it's a good lesson for anyone who might be listening and also has like a regular day job. How do you infuse that creativity into what you do and it be okay? Like you can find a way to do it. And I had great companies that I worked with that allowed me to do these kind of wacky things. Um, but it really, the storytelling, the music writing, and now the furniture flipping, which in a way is more of a story. I think I see it. I love to document those like on my Instagram where I found it. Like I found it here in this trash or someone told me about it. And this piece, it's a family heirloom or whatever it is. And being able to tell the story of how I then transform it and how it looks and then where it's going. It's going to continue its life. The storytelling part is really like the golden thread through it
Yeah.
all.
Yeah.
And then throughout all of this, though, I don't know if this resonates with you, but going from corporate tech startup world to flipping furniture and covered in paint and sawdust in my
Yeah.
garage, splinters in my hands. It was a very strange transition. And I remember, initially starting to reach out on Instagram or on LinkedIn, people were like, well, what are you doing now? And I was like, well, I can't find a job. So I started doing this. And people were like, oh, that's a fun hobby. Have fun with your
Yeah.
hobby. And I was like, oh, wait, no, this is like, I'm starting it as like a side business. Like this is real. And then like it was kind of received. Some people were very supportive and some people were just like, yo, what are you doing?
You
And
know what? I feel like I'm sorry for interrupting. I feel
oh
like
yeah,
people on LinkedIn who are so much in their business mind, they're just in denial.
Yeah. Right, right, right. Yeah, true. Yeah, totally. And I think that goes like be careful with who you ask questions with or who you share information with. Sometimes the feedback isn't necessarily from the right audience. And take it with a grain of salt. I initially took it and it kind of like was made me a little sad or I don't know, disappointed, like, or maybe I'm weird or and so I started to ask other people who have done career, I call them career flips, but career changes, career pivots. I knew a few people who had been doing these things. One of my colleagues was an SEO expert. He had his own agency and he still does that, but he also had, through a strange life experience, started to do animal communication readings on the side. And I was like, what the, how does that even happen? I worked with this guy.
I've
He's
never
so
I've never heard of this of such thing.
yeah, he's so
Wow.
logical and down to earth, but he had an experience, and it's a very like you can grasp the experience. He went to a certain event and he had this experience where he learned that he is has the potential to understand animals in a way that most people cannot. And I was fascinated
Wow.
by this. And so I started to think like, well, maybe I'm not the only weird one who's done, come from a corporate world and done these things. And I didn't realize how many people have had unique and interesting career pivots. And so I started to like collect these stories, but I would just have them in my mind. And then one night, as many I think creatives can understand, like without the stress of work, I started to dream again. I started to have like my mind was able to kind of, or my subconscious was able to dream. And I had nice dreams. I had weird dreams. I had dreams I, didn't really make sense, but I was having dreams. And one night I had a dream where I was sitting in this kind of gray room and there was like words, purple, turquoise, and yellow on the wall. And I was at a microphone talking about career changes. And I was like, that's so wild. And then I kind of put it off, similar to, past creative pursuits. Like, that's great, but that's not the focus right now. I need to figure out how I'm going to pay my bills. And then kept putting it off. But then eventually, like, it just wouldn't go away. That creative festering of an idea that I just would not leave. And so I decided to start the Career Flipper podcast. And I thought maybe I'll do like, I don't know, a few episodes just to put it out there as a very small project. Well, a few episodes turned into over 30. And now I literally have an interview every single week where I talk with people around the world about their weird, unique, fascinating career change stories. And in all industries. And so the storytelling, again, it's that golden thread, and it gives me the ability to put my voice out there, share these stories, and kind of normalize that we can tap into our creative side no matter how out there we feel. We're able, like the delusional part was big for me, where I was like, this is just nuts, but it's not. It's totally fine and acceptable. And it goes back to a creative outlet of being able to share these stories and connect people to ensure that like others also feel supported and not so alone on their endeavors. So it's been an interesting journey, and the art is very different and along the way, and definitely not fine art, but it's more abstract sometimes, I guess, like painting something in a certain way, like or a paint wash, and just making it so it's not perfect. This furniture does not look, pristine. It's not going to look like what you're picking up at, your retail store. It's going to look creative and unique. And it's special, and it's a
Yeah.
statement
Yeah.
piece at
Yeah.
that point.
Yeah.
And it was
Yeah.
saved from the landfill because so much stuff goes in there and just rots, and
Yeah.
it's bad for it's just not helpful to the environment. So it's
Yes.
yeah, it's a lot, but that is my creative journey, and I am really excited to see where it all leads.
Well, thank you so much for sharing this. This is amazing, and that's so. First of all, you guys out there, go to the show notes. We will put all the links. Go to Jenny's podcast because it's like if you like this show, You will like that show because, in a way, the stories are kind of the same. The self exploration, the tapping into your creative side, listening to yourself, listening to the universe, the magic kicks of the universe. Spoiler alert. There will be an interview with me. Depending on logistics, it's probably going to be later than you are listening to
Yeah.
Jenny on my show. But I will also make sure that that goes. My interview on Janie's show will go on in the art scene as a bonus episode, so you all will be notified that it's out there. Nonetheless, I'm not the only cool creative person who flipped a career on Janie's show. She's got so many interesting people. Uh, and we will link everything in the show notes, of course. My question to you is: so you have your visual creative side satisfied. It's like the tactile visual with the furniture flip business, right? You
Yes.
have your narrative creative side satisfied with a podcast and interviewing people. So where does music fit in this story now? Do you have time for it? Are you getting back to it? Are you writing more songs?
That is a great question. And I think it's so interesting the more we tap into our creative side, how things start to rise up. And I have been having, kind of this craving of creating music again. And I'm not really sure on what scale that is. I know, for example, like it could be just my podcast intro song. It could be me, I don't know, creating content to showcase different stories in the pocket. It could be very simple, but I know that it's in there and it's kind of just my guitar is so dusty. I literally haven't picked it up in, gosh, years. And so I feel like there's a part of me that it's just calling, like it's sitting up there, it's calling. So I am curious how it will land. So, but I don't know yet. And I think I need to give it a chance because I don't know if this resonates with you too, but there are some types of art, and music is mine, where the relationship can be a little rocky because there were times in the past where it was very frustrating. I couldn't, get a particular chord and I'd get frustrated and put it down and not come back to it. Or, I couldn't hit a note, or I did a song and it didn't resonate with people the way that I thought it was going to. And so getting frustrated with that. And instead, now that I've seen, like with furniture, for example, of how sometimes it's okay if it doesn't turn out the way you had in mind. It's going to turn out the way it's supposed to. And I think it's helped me be a little bit more accepting of the creative side. So there's potential that when I do pick up that guitar, which I know is going to be very soon, and I need to get new strings, it's going to be a magical reunion, and there's a lot more acceptance and opportunity in it because I now have the space for that.
Yeah. And you know what? I really love referencing Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic.
Yes.
Whenever, yes, I know,
Love that book.
yes.
Yeah.
Because whenever I have this conversation on the show with someone, and what you just said really kind of reminded me of what she was talking about in that book, to not put so much pressure on your creativity. Just give it space, right? We are sometimes being perfectionists, and I'm guilty of this myself. Back in the days when I was trying to like make the perfect strokes, or get like the perfect likeness of the portrait, or something like that, and then I would get frustrated if it was a little bit wonky, or if the perspective was a little bit off, or something like that, and I wasn't seeing it as, the natural thing that came out of me. I saw it as a flaw, and I would put so much pressure onto this. And then this narrative, okay, if it is not coming out in the quote unquote perfect way, or the way I expected, then I'm not good enough in this, right? Then I need to go and find something and apply myself to something that is more conventional, that I can, I don't know, get a degree, or get a job for, right? So,
Yeah.
but yeah, over the years, learning how to accept that and give your creativity a room and treat it as your companion rather than your I don't know, a tool or a servant or something like that, and kind of cohabitate with it and collaborate with us. Like, okay, well, in what way do you want to show up today, right? In what way do you want to manifest? Like, I'm giving you this space, right? In a way, like, I am the tool of my creativity because help it holding the brush and mixing the colors and stuff like that, and then I just let it use my body to create whatever like whatever it wants to create, right? And we can have this creative talk about, okay, so what is the subject matter we're exploring today? What are the feelings we're tapping into, right? But then really give it that space to, to be imperfect but expressive, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
I I I, I feel you very much.
that hits home. Like that resonates so much. And the thing that really stood out is the not good enough part and how we hold ourselves to standards that are unrealistic, and that get in the way of this beautiful process. Like sometimes I think about, and even, for you, for example, like imagine if you told yourself you're not good enough. Think of all of the pieces of art that you have created would not exist. There's empty walls everywhere. And that's so sad. Or like I think of like, professional athletes, if they would have told themselves, yeah, I'm not good. That's how many home runs that weren't hit. That's how many kids that don't have a mentor or a, someone to look up to because that person, decided they weren't good enough. So they just never played. And I think about that a lot because I've told myself I was raised to believe that I wasn't good enough. And I think, that I've worked on over the years, and it's still a work in progress. But, I think when we give ourselves permission to just do it, and not necessarily care if we're good enough. Because with music, it was a big thing. Like, I'm not Adele, I'm not Jewel, I don't sound like them. I've never had professional music lessons, or excuse me, professional singing lessons, guitar, yes, but like, so what is that? Why would I want to sing? And so giving yourself the permission to do that, and then, you know, really being able to lean into the two people that you should really care what they think, because I know that sometimes I care too much about what everyone thinks. But I listened to something recently, and the two people that you should care what they think are, one, your 5-year-old self, and two, your 80-year-old self. And if you create a song and your 5-year-old self is dancing and your 80-year-old self is like, yeah, that's awesome, you had a great time with that. That's all that really matters. Like, it doesn't matter if, you
I love
know
that. Yeah.
Joe 5321, A on the internet doesn't like it. Like, it doesn't matter. It's really, it comes down to, do you like it? Are you having
Yeah.
a great time with the creative process? And I think that that's really important for us creatives to continue to create,
Yeah.
fill those
Yeah.
walls, fill the room with sound, whatever the, method is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I want to challenge, you were talking about this, and it kind of gave me another thought. I want to challenge that narrative of not being good enough a little bit more, because uh, uh, do you notice that when it comes to the creative side, we have that pressure, like societal pressure, like you gotta be good enough from the get-go. You have to be born with like all the skills and everything, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise you shouldn't be pursuing it, and you need to go and learn anything else. But if you think about that, it's the same freaking thing. You're not good enough at anything until you learn, try,
Yeah.
fail,
Mhm.
try more, and then perfect your skills and get experiences. But we do let ourselves, some grace when we are pursuing, like, again, quote unquote, conventional careers, right? It's like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm not good enough. I'm good enough to be, the beginner level employee, and then I will climb the ladder.
Yeah.
But for creativity, it's like you have to be genius right away,
Right.
right?
Right.
Come on, give yourself some time, give
Mhm.
yourself some room to learn, to practice, to fail, and then try again, and then you will. And this is, to me, like, I was drawing painting since I was little, and it's always like it was a very celebrated kind of, again, hobby thing, because my family is also creative, but never actually pursued that creative side as a career. So it
Mm.
also was a narrative in the family. And then the my compromise of getting an education is something that is kind of applied to creativity. The fashion design didn't work, and then my compromise of getting the marketing career, which is, uh, corporate but sort of creative,
Yeah.
worked for quite a while, but then also, burnout and other things, and then working for the companies, or in the industries that you don't really have your heart in 100%. And it's and then I finally gave myself permission to join the art community in 2018 and started showing in the local gallery. And I was so bad at it. I was freaking bad. I'm looking at the pieces that I created back then, and I'm looking at things that I'm doing now. And
Yeah.
I see the journey, and I see how I am evolving, but I wouldn't be here if I wasn't brave enough to start back then, and show up with whatever level of skills I had,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I'm 40. I am 40, and I started in my late 30s, like my mid 30s. I just started joining the art community and showing myself.
Yeah.
So, to your point, where would I have been if I started back in my 20s, right?
Yeah. Right, right,
Right?
right. It's like we have to go through all of the experiences or all breadcrumbs that lead us to have the skills and honestly, like the passion and the drive to be able to take those risks to do the things we don't necessarily know how to do because it becomes so worth it to try and to create that foundation to start. Actually,
Yeah.
this was maybe, gosh, maybe about a year ago. I took a picture. I thought it was like this weird moment. I had three furniture projects, and I do this all from my garage. But at the time, everything was very scattered and disorganized. And I had, tarp on the ground, but, I don't have the right tools, also to say, just because it was on a budget. I took a picture of me standing there with this, like, what looks like a chaotic mess. And I took that picture thinking, this is where I began. And knowing that it can only go up from here.
Yeah.
And looking back at a lot of those early projects too, I was like, oh, I could do this different. I could do that, or I could use this. I know this now. And I think it is all just part of this beautiful process. And it actually reminds me, so my grandma, she passed away in 2000, but in her 70s, like she was a homemaker for the most part. She did study English when she was in college and did some writing, but it was all just, personal. So she raised her family, and in her 70s, she decided to take an art class at the Senior Citizen Center, never having picked up a brush before. She freaking could paint. Like we have portraits that she's done, oil paintings in our storage, and in our homes of this amazing art that she picked up at 70. And she just did it for fun. I don't think she ever sold a piece. She painted, me and my sister or naturescapes or what have you. Amazing, incredible talent. And I think it just goes to show with age. I'm 40 as well. And, started this at 39. And I think age just, it's all energy.
Yeah.
It just, it gets,
Yeah.
I don't subscribe to the fact that age is a limiting factor. I think that gets in
Yes.
the way and that can hold us back. And age is a gift. Age is an opportunity to take what we know, take the experience and the wisdom. And honestly, the fact the older we get, the less we seem to care. And to put that into practice and do cool stuff.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh my God, I'm so with you on that. It's so amazing. Yeah, I do notice that the older I get, I was kind of a little bit nervous about turning 40, but uh, uh, the older
Mm,
I get, the more I realize that I was so self-conscious in my 20s.
yeah.
Yeah, and again, it's all about the pressure, right? It's all about the pressure of meeting someone's expectations. And the funny thing
Mhm.
about this now, and in my early 40s, I realized that, we are all going through the same thing. We all feel this pressure. We're all trying to fit someone's expectations. No one actually has expectations. Everybody just feels pressure.
Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Oh my
yeah.
God. So, I would love to see your grandma's paintings.
Oh,
I would also, if you are brave enough to share with us your music on SoundCloud, I would love to put it in the show notes for everybody to hear. And do you have anything else to share that I didn't ask you today? Because we're getting closer to the end of the hour.
no, I will just say, Galena, that this was wonderful to talk about. I haven't had the opportunity to talk about it in such creative focus before. And it is just, I feel very lit up. I feel very like, just excited that you are giving people the platform to talk about this process in a variety of different ways for people around the world. And yeah, I look forward to connecting with anyone who may have questions or their own career flip, or in San Diego, if you're looking for furniture and you want to go an eco-friendly option, I'm your gal. So I think it's just a really cool way to connect with people, and I am all for it. So thank you for giving me the platform to share and
Well,
being
back
here.
at you. Back at you. You're doing the same thing. And I don't know, let's talk about your picking up your guitar like offline after we
Okay.
are done with this recording, because
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind having some original music on my show.
Ooh, yeah, let's talk. Let's
Let's
definitely
talk.
that
Let's
would be a
talk.
very motivating
Yeah.
factor. So
Yeah. And
let's talk. Yeah.
it's really amazing. And again, I deem myself, an artist, like in the very conventional understanding, like a fine art painter, whatever.
Mhm.
But I do so much connect with everything you do, and seeing all those avenues that you are expressing yourself. And you know that I'm also gigging on, old furniture, and I don't do
Yes,
that.
we've
I
talked
don't
about
do
your
it as a
table.
business. Yeah, I don't do
Yeah.
it as a business. I will probably never do, but I really love to, get dirty and, reimagine something, watching all the same YouTube channels that you do,
Yes.
have my small collection of tools in the garage, sometimes get dirty with paint and sawdust just like you do.
Yep. Yep.
And also it's really what also stood out to me when you were talking is that, once you pick up one side, then all the others are starting to reemerge again. The visual side, the narrative side, now music is really really trying to get out, and that guitar is looking at you.
It is. Oof.
Like, come on, girl. I just need
Yeah.
some dusting. Come on, let's do it. And I just recently experienced the same kind of a weird um, thing. So I used to write poetry back in my 20s, like early 20s, like late teens, early 20s. Uh, uh, in Russian, of course, it's my native language, right? I've never written anything in English. Like a few weeks ago, literally, I could not sleep because the entire night I was like downloading a
Okay.
poem in English. It was the first freaking time in my life. And I was like, oh wow, I just feel like the channel is open, you know?
Yeah. That
So
is so
it is
cool.
really cool.
Wow.
It is really cool. So back to you. Do what you do because you're freaking doing this
Thank
in the
you.
most awesome way. And I look forward to hearing more of your music, because the channel that you're opening for yourself and for everybody else to participate is so valuable, is so amazing and so inspiring. So
Thank you so much.
thank you
That's
so
really
much for coming on the show and sharing. And again, everybody, if you were expecting a fine artist, well, sorry, but
you get me.
uh, please plug away where people can find you and connect with you. I'll make sure to post all of that in the show notes. And yeah, plug away.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me at san diego furniture flipper.com. You can also find me on Instagram, San Diego Furniture Flipper, and TikTok under that same name. The podcast is The Career Flipper. You can go to thecareerflipper.com, and you can also find me on Instagram, The Career Flipper Pod. But the podcast is on all the channels that you can get a podcast. But I am local to San Diego for the furniture flipping, and I post content about how I transform all of these pieces. And they are available for purchase and client projects and all that good stuff. So find me, follow me, talk to me. I would love to say hi and see what you're up to as well. So
one more question. Are you accepting story pitches for your podcast? If anyone is listening to you right now and wants to share their story?
Oh my God. Yes. Thank you for saying that. 100%. So season 2 is going to kick off in January, and I'm going to start recording those interviews probably like October. So I am looking for people who have had unique career changes anywhere in the world. If you do have one, pop over to thecareerflipper.com, send me a message or DM me on Instagram. However you want to reach me, I would love to have a listener from your show talk about their career flip in any industry too. It doesn't matter. It's just, what did you do? How did you do it? And how can we learn from you?
Yeah. Okay. Well, and the reason I'm asking is because a lot of people who I had on the show are kind of having the similar journey. Yeah. So I assume that a lot of our listeners are kind of on the same path or exploring the path. So yeah, you guys, there's an opportunity for you. Okay.
I love it. Yes.
Jenny's waiting for you.
Yeah. I want to tell your story. I want to hear it. I love it. Yes. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, follow Jenny on all the channels. Make sure to check out show notes. I will post everything in the show notes, and well, follow her show because there will be my interview as well. It's not often that I get on the other side of a microphone. So,
yeah, that was a fun episode.
It was. Yeah, it was a really. I felt like I was craving to tell my story because I really don't let myself do that on my show. So thank you for that opportunity, and you guys stay tuned, and we'll see you again in the art scene. Bye. Thanks for listening to this episode of In the Art Scene. Show us some love by sharing it with your friends and giving it a raving 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcasts. By doing this, you're supporting my nonprofit organization called San Diego Art Directory on its mission to make San Diego a new cultural destination. To learn more, visit sandiegoartdirectory.com and intheartscene.com and follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Have an inspiring day. I will see you next time in the art scene.